Goes. Hello, everyone. This is our third edition of the Rocky Road to Success, and our guest today is Dr. Gbenga Olayemi. Dr. Olayemi is a pediatrician, but I don't want to spoil anything, so I will leave it to him to tell his story. Okay, welcome, sir. It's good to have you.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Inga. Thank you very, very much.
Very nice to have you, sir.
Thank you. Don't call me sorry. So
we'll get to that later.
All right. What's the?
So yeah, I mean, this program is basically dedicated to people who, are experiencing some kind of midlife, mid-career, or career crisis, and they just have questions. They feel like their story is too hard, or they need inspiration. And sometimes we feel like the best way to teach is really just learn from those who have walked the walk, So we want you to share with us what it's been like to achieve the milestones you have. We're going to ask you a couple of questions just to walk you down that lane and to help others understand how you have walked your walk. I'm sorry. So the first question I would like to ask is, can you tell us a little bit about your beginnings? Where you come from, and your parents, your childhood, that sort of thing.
Sure. So I was born in Lagos, Nigeria. My father was a medical doctor, a general practitioner, and my mom was a midwife. So it's sort of like your current nurse practitioner type, but in OBGYN.
Okay.
I was their only son, so I'm the 5 kids, and I was the 4th child. So you know how things are in Nigeria, man. You all become doctors, lawyers, anything, pharmacists, engineers, anything outside of those things, you're a failure, like someone said. And their only son, I guess that was the path that was determined already. Plus, they had their own hospital. I happened to like medicine anyhow, so that path was already there. Plus, I found it easy because it was the only thing that I was exposed to as a child.
Okay.
What else again? With regards to where one draws inspiration, probably more than likely my father's story, because my father went to Lisha Grammar School and graduated in the late 40s, and he never did any science whatsoever, none. So he worked in the railways in Nigeria for a while, worked as a school teacher, went to Guinea where he learned French, on an adventure trying to better his life. Eventually found his way to Moscow, learned the sciences in Russian, learned the sciences in Russian language for the first time and went to school in Russia. My dad spoke Russian until he died. Yes. If my dad could do that in the 60s, learn medicine in a foreign language, it makes you think that you have no excuse whatsoever.
For sure.
Yeah, for sure, right? And my mom did the same thing. My mom also did her midwifery in Moscow, and they both spoke. Yeah, they both speak Russian. No, they met in Freetown when my dad came on holiday from Russia to see one of his mentors, and so he met my mother at the port in Freetown because my grandmother was a trader and used to do business in Freetown, Sierra Leone, even though she was from Nigeria.
Okay, I see.
So that's that. So that's the basic inspiration for my story. Went to med school in Nigeria, came to the US, got a master's in public health, and then did a residency in New York in pediatrics, and finally got a job and moved to Northwest Arkansas, where I've been for almost 10 years.
Okay. Well, thank you for summarizing that very, very well for us. That's very interesting. Your parents went to medical school in Russia. Wow, that's quite a journey.
Yeah.
And it brings to fore a lot of things. That little story, how challenging that must have been, and it also borders on the issue of race, and how I imagine it was not very convenient back then for them to go through that journey, being people of, I hate to mention people of our skin color, but you will find that those things were never excuses for them in those days. I wonder why they are such a big deal nowadays. So what are your thoughts on that?
So I'll tell you, it's funny. Whenever there's opportunity to do something, there is always a challenge, whether I like it or not. With regards to the issue of race, I always tell people that I am not a black person that happens to be human. I am human. I happen to be black, right? And that goes for everybody on the face of the earth, right? Whether you're white, black, Chinese, Asian, you always look at their humanity first. That's why we fight for equality from a human perspective, because we all understand intrinsically within us that we are equal as human beings, right? That's why you can mix any race in the world and you still have a child that looks human. That's true, right? Because it's the same species, right? Difference in melanation, culture, and certain things, but you can still look at them and go, these are humans, no matter what, right? You can communicate. We have similar things in common, right? We can speak. We have a language of communication. We have certain traditions, marriages, eating, just things like that. So I don't use race as an excuse. If I met an outright racist, I mean, as long as you're not trying to kill me, I don't have a problem with you. I think you're an idiot. In this day and age, you think that somebody is inferior to you. I also have a Judeo-Christian outlook to life, no matter how sinful I tend to be, that all men are created in the image of God. And so I don't care whether you're white or black. We're created in an image of someone who is higher than all of us. So race is not an issue for me. It really is not. I don't let it bother me.
Okay, I asked that question, and we'll get into some more detail later. I asked that question because I hear it a lot in discourse, how people of different races are not being treated equally. It's all in the major discourse of how you don't get equal opportunities because of your skin color or background. And why that came to mind was, back then there was less, nobody was watching over how people treat people, and yet your parents were able to, navigate that significant milestone, in a different language, in a different country, where I'm sure nobody was giving them any special treatment,
Yeah. Well, true, but so you're right there. So my dad went to a place where he was one of the few black people in the country, and they still went to learn medicine under professors that probably some of them had probably never seen black people before. My dad told me, I'll tell you the story. It's two stories. So my dad was doing a posting in one of the inner towns in Moscow. I mean, like Budonk, Russia, right? And he said it was, the lady was ushered in by the nurse, and the lady came in, an older woman, never seen a black person before, looks at the nurse and says, "Where's the doctor?" And they point to my dad. And she says, "Where's the doctor?" Again, they point to my dad. And she makes the sign of the cross, and then she walks out like, no.
My goodness.
But that is, I'm not even upset with that, because that's just somebody who's never seen a black person before. It was from Innerland. We're talking about the 60s, right? So never seen a black person before. The other one was on the bus, right? Where she saw my dad on the bus and came to my dad and said, "Young man, do you have soap at home?" My dad said, "Yes." You know where this is going?
Oh my gosh.
"Do you have a washer at home?" My dad said, "Yes." "So why do you refuse to take your bath?"
But this was just innocent people. They don't know
exactly. That. There wasn't any reason about that. She just never seen a black person before. She just thought, why wouldn't this kid take his bath? Why is he covered in soup?
Oh my goodness. So yeah. Now these days people will get offended by things like that.
But you should realize what is what is racist and what is just an innocent,
Mm-hmm.
Ignorant, question, right? So, I mean, my dad's godparents were white Russians. My first sister, who was born in Russia, her English name is Valentina. She's named after my dad's godmother in Moscow,
Mm-hmm.
right? The people that took care of my father, an older man who just came to Moscow for the first time, By the way, my dad actually went to med school at the age of 32, 33 as an older person.
Mm.
So to learn medicine for the first time in that language, I know I didn't say that earlier, but that's a big inspiration.
That is.
But
that is.
But regards to color, there are many Black successful people all over. Opportunities will come your way. Adversity will come your way as well. The question always is how you react to it. Someone's it doesn't matter what someone thinks about you, right? It doesn't matter what someone thinks of you, right? Whether they think you're inferior to them because of your color, or whatever. It matters more what you think about yourself, because what you think about yourself is far more detrimental than what somebody else thinks of you, right? So that's it.
Okay. So since we're on this subject, you came to the US. I remember, I think I was the one that even dropped you at the airport.
Airport.
You came to the US, what year?
2005, August.
Okay. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey as an immigrant? And, I want you to shed some light on some of the difficulties you had to face.
Okay.
And how the journey to where you are today.
Okay. So, I mean, I can't be where I am today without mentioning my cousin, Yomi Akande. Is an older cousin of mine who basically took interest in me and decided that, he was going to make sure that I did well. So he basically was the major hand in bringing me to the US. I remember when I was leaving Nigeria for Canada in 98, it was like, Gbenga, you just finished that degree, we're going to get you to the US and try and see where you can go from there. And he kept his promise. I can't even argue with that. So he happened to be in Georgia when I got admission to Emory University. And I think one of the first things I noticed was, in America, on the good side is that you've passed on to proven otherwise. If you do all the small bits, your homework, everything they tell you to do, it's easy to get an A. You have to be a lazy jack to fail in the US, or not just know what you're doing. So if you're able to apply yourself, you should be fine. Having to do homework on the computer, writing papers was a big deal. I'd never had to do that before in my life, and that was a lot. But I got used to it, and I was able to do that. Working and going to school at the same time was also interesting.
What did you do, if you don't mind shedding light?
I worked in. What did I work? I worked in school. I worked in. I worked at Avis. I washed cars, and then I also I worked in my school, helping to raise money from alumni. So we'll call them and ask them if they want to donate anything. So we had people that were donating. Yeah, it was good. Okay. It was good.
Didn't you feel like after 8-9 years of medical school, and that it was kind of humbling to to find yourself in that place?
Not at all. Never crossed my mind.
Okay, great.
It never crossed my mind. It was just, I mean, it was honest work. It was what I was qualified to do at that time. I couldn't work as a doctor, so you do what you're supposed to do. It never crossed my mind. It was a means to an end, and it worked for me. I was happy to do it.
Great. This is interesting. So, thank you for letting us know that you have to keep. Essentially, what you're saying is you have to keep your eye on the ball.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
I mean, if I have to wash the road until I can get what I want to get done, then wash the road I will. If I have to, be a gardener, mow lawns, that's exactly what I'll do. It doesn't take away from my medical degree. I can't work as a doctor, but I need to have some money in my pocket to do things for myself. I would rather do that.
How would you say, for me, like you said, my sister was the one who paid for my ticket to come to the US, and she paid for my master's degree and all of that. But I found it very difficult because I was working a full-time 9 to 5, and then my classes were at night. So my days were like from 8 o'clock in the morning till midnight kind of days, non-stop.
Yeah.
So I found that strange and difficult, because back in Nigeria the parents paid all the school fees for me, and so studying was a lot easier. But when you have to now produce during the day and still go to, that was hard for me. Did you have that kind of experience too?
I did, because I lived with my cousin, so I was comfortable, and he also gave me a car, so I was able to drive. But the school thing was interesting as well. I did a full day at school, and then I went to work in the evening. Sometimes I didn't finish until midnight, and then you were back in school as well. Again, those things didn't last very long. You just did what you had to do. That was it. And whenever holiday came, you worked and you made sure you got good sleep.
Yeah.
It's temporary. It's not meant to be forever. If it's something that was supposed to be permanent, then you have to rethink your life. But something that is just for a short time.
I think I see your point. Your point. So would you say that in this period between when you were studying for your master's, did you experience any kind of discomfort with interacting with colleagues and your environment?
Not at all. Not at all.
So nothing significant to report. Okay.
Nothing significant. Nothing significant at all. I also had really very good friends in school. So that kind of helped as well. The master's took me 4 years instead of 2 because I had to stop and go work in the lab for 1.5 years.
Okay, why did you have to stop?
Because I wanted to study for my USMLEs, and I
Sorry,
couldn't do it.
Not everybody knows what USMLE is. What
the licensing board, the USMLEs. That was a track that I took. I didn't think I could do full-time schoolwork and study for the exam at the same time. I could have tried it, but I didn't. So I ended up doing the exams when I was doing my research job at the hematology oncology department at Emory.
Okay, your master's was in public health, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So just to be clear, you took some time off to work at the lab?
Yes. Yep. And then I went back and finished the degree.
Was that doing research or just to make an extra buck, or what was that about?
It was doing research and extra buck, basically.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it was in that period that you were also able to study for your...
Yes. Yeah.
So you had passed them before you went back to finish your master's? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I'd passed.
Wow.
Yeah. It's funny thing was that when I went back to finish my master's, the year I finished my master's was the same year I started residency.
Yeah, I'm even surprised you bothered to finish.
Exactly. It's funny. I thought I wasn't going to finish, but that's where providence and God comes in, right? Because I graduated April, May. I started residency June, July.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And I never thought I was going to finish. But I did.
Okay. But so your journey was obviously not one of those ones that you were focusing on the negatives. You just kept your focus and made sure you got what you came here to achieve, right?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, if you're going to focus on negativity, negative things happen. Don't get me wrong. I don't know anybody whose life, it doesn't have some form of adversity or the other. But if you look at your support group, your friends that you have, and the things that have gone well, you just decide to push forward. In my opinion, your life can only be lived in a present forward movement. And I've got in a present forward type, moment, right? You can't relive the past. You got to move on because life doesn't wait for you. You move on with it. But with regards to how I see things now, especially as an older person, if I can control everything that I can, if I've done everything I can to do what I need to do, then whatever else happens outside of that is not within my power. I'm not going to stress about it. That's how I think. If I've done everything I should do, I'm not going to stress about things that are out of my control.
Okay, that's good advice. So you started practicing. Have you been at the same place since you started practicing, or there have been some?
No, same place. I've been at Mercy now since 2012, October, November. So this is my ninth year, more or less.
And in the workplace, do you experience challenges interacting with your peers and or patients, or
No, not at all. Nothing beyond the ordinary. It's funny, when I was looking for a job, one of my friends in residency said, if you find a place where the workers have been there for a very, very long time and there's a low turnover rate, it's probably a good place to be. And where I've been, most of the workers that have been here, I have someone who's been there probably 20 years, 25 years, 20, like decades. They've been working for Mercy, very low turnover, and they've been great, great colleagues. So I landed in a very good place, I landed with mature providers, so that kind of helped me out.
So, okay, that's important to know for those of us who are thinking careers. If we're looking, we should also, it'd be nice to look out for factors like that in choosing a place to stay. Now, you're a medical doctor, and people put medical doctors on a pedestal that essentially would indicate or suggest that they are of some superior intellect, they're more special than the rest of us who didn't go to medical school and all of that. So I'm going to ask you the question that, can you tell us a little bit about your journey? Did you have to study real hard? Was it a challenge? Did you have to do certain things to get the results that you see today?
Yeah.
Or you feel like it was just easy,
So with regards to the issue of, medical people being highly intellectual, honestly, this is a case of familiarity breeding contempt. I don't think medical doctors are necessarily the most intelligent people. It really isn't. I'm sorry. You have to have a level of intellect, true, but not genius level intellect. Not that there are no geniuses in medicine. There are. There are geniuses in every aspect of life. Medicine just has to have this, happens to have this just nobility type reverence around it, so they're more revered. I know people who are carpenters who are geniuses, mechanics who are geniuses, artisans who are geniuses at what they do, artists who are geniuses, your Rembrandt or Leonardo da Vinci. So it's not only in medicine that you find geniuses, and not everybody in medicine is a genius. I think in any enterprise you choose to do, you cannot escape working hard. That's just it's essential that you do, and that's medicine as well. You have to have the dedication and the ability to fight through the hard times, because the times when you question yourself and ask, why am I even doing this? Because the work can be a little overwhelming, right? But yeah, you have to study hard, no question about that. You have to be dedicated and disciplined. But again, I think that is in any enterprise that you want to that you decide to take on. That's it. It's funny. I used to reward kids that I know for doing well in school, for getting all A's and all that, because I like bright kids. And then it started to hit me that the kid that gets all C's but busts his hiney to get all C's is far more likely to be successful than the very bright, intelligent kid that gets a smattering of A's and B's and never learns to apply himself and work hard. Because at the end of the day, one understands the value of hard work. The one that is bright and not hardworking is a disaster in the making. No matter how intelligent that kid is, no matter how intelligent that person is, and there are a plethora of examples that you and I probably know, people like that, who you know they're bright people, but just never learn to do the hard work.
Yeah.
And they're failures.
I think that would be appropriately referred to as an entitlement mentality, you know?
Well, you know what? I wouldn't even argue about that at all. You know,
because you always found it easy to get stuff in class. You think the real world is like that. It's not like
that. Yeah, it's not like that at all. No matter what you do, you still have to work hard. Yeah. Even gifted people have to work hard. Sorry, go on.
Yeah. So that's actually kind of what I wanted to point out. Would you say that, you know, you've had your moments of real struggle to acquire, you know, to step through life, you know, like such as when you were studying back in, you know, undergraduate school, and then also for the USMLEs?
Undergraduate school, when I first got to Ife, you know, you medical school is a gathering of local champions, is what we call them. You know, bright kids from everywhere, all over the country, are now in school with you. So you're not special. If you ever thought you find out you're not special very quickly. So being away from home, you know, starting to do my physiology and my histology, microbiology, biochem got very overwhelming one time, to the point where I actually ran home. Middle of the semester, I just took off and went home. Didn't tell anybody. And my dad thought I was going crazy. You know, he saw me, asked me why I was home, and I was talking to him. I can't remember what I said. All I remember was his eyes started growing big, like he was concerned. And me, I was thinking, what's wrong with this guy? And he was thinking my son is going mad. So my dad, being a doctor, put me on medication, probably put me on sedatives, and just said, you know what, just stay at home, rest, eat, don't go anywhere. Yes, just chill. You know, school was still going on. My dad, you know, being a hard person, ideally would have beat the crap out of me and kicked my hiney to school, but he was so worried that I was losing my mind that he kept me at home, and then he sent me back. And you know, I was refreshed. My mind was clear, and I realized, you know, I could do this. So that helped. The other thing was I had very, very, very good friends in med school. I had friends that were very bright. I'm not lying here. I mean, I had a group of about 6 friends in total. That was a clique, and none of them ever had a repeat or a receipt in med school, which, you know, in Ife, it's very, very hard for you to find just 2 friends that one of them didn't have a repeat or had a receipt, you know. So, but I had 6 friends like that, all very bright. 4 of us were on the dean's list when we graduated.
Nice.
4 of us were on the dean's list when we graduated. But we pushed each other, we checked on each other, we checked each other's grades. You know, you couldn't get away, and these guys were not afraid to give you a talking to. Anytime you didn't do well, they would give you a tongue lashing, man. You wouldn't have to get to your parents. They would say, dude, what are you doing? You know, okay. So they kept you honest. They kept you. They put the fire to your ass, if I could use that, you know, phrase here. So you couldn't let off, because you knew you had, you know, you had a good support system, and that would tell you off if you didn't do what you were supposed to. So I fell into that group, and I count myself lucky to have them. You know, they're all very successful people today.
Yeah. Okay.
So
it's go on, sir.
I was going to say that you can't. There's no isolation here per se. I don't think any man is an island. You also need a good cast of people around you to push you in the right direction. That's it.
Okay. Thank you very much. So the main things that I think we can take out of that is, you know, you have to be disciplined. You have to work hard if you want to see the right kind of results, and it also helps when you have the right kind of associates around you to, you know, to inspire and motivate you to continuously give that level of output. To things. Okay, this is good to know. So in other words, you're trying to tell us that, you know, you struggle just as hard as anyone else, you know, and you don't consider yourself to be more special than
not at all. Okay. Not at all.
Okay.
Not at all.
That's good to know. So so now some of our audience are still in school. Some of them are young people trying to figure out what to do next in life. Some of them are already working and they just feel like I don't know that things are going the way I expected, and I don't know what to do. I have all these responsibilities and obligations, and I don't feel like my education has been worth it because not everybody is getting making enough money to meet their needs. So, what kind of advice would you have for people that find themselves somewhere in that bracket?
Oof, that's a loaded question.
I know.
Because you just pulled out a whole like a wide gamut of of scenarios here. If you are doing something that isn't quite meeting your needs, if you have the ability to change careers or try something else, then you go ahead and do that. Right? You go ahead and try to do that. If you because I've seen people, I've been in the US for so long, where I've seen people go from, being a teacher to being a medical doctor, or being a teacher to being a nurse and a nurse practitioner. I've seen that multiple times. You could do that, right? I have a cousin who was an architect in Nigeria, who is a nurse practitioner in family medicine in the US today. So she basically changed careers. With regards, that's one way I know to do it. What else again? In terms of thinking of what you want to do with yourself, I'll be honest with you, whatever you want to do with yourself, I'm the kind of person that plays it safe. Get a proper education and something that can pay your bills. And if you have any aspiration to be a designer, an architect, or a carpenter, or a DJ on the side, you can make more money than whatever your vocational, whatever, doing your things of your dream. Then you make sure that you hold that ground first, right? So that you can explore whatever else you want to do with something covering your overhead while you explore, right? So that you're not in trouble, right? That's another thing there. I'll give an example. Michael Crichton, the guy that wrote Congo, that wrote Jurassic Park, was a medical doctor who went to Harvard. I don't think he ever practiced a day in his life. Yeah, Michael Crichton was a medical doctor.
Yeah, he's one of my favorite authors.
Oh yeah. He wrote So he had his bases covered, right?
I happen to think so. I happen to think so, and I think it's a good thing you brought it out because there's a lot of people that go on and on about how you should only do what you love, blah blah blah. But you know what? If it doesn't pay the bills, who are you kidding?
Yes. You know how I feel about those things. Those things, in my opinion, are just platitudinous nonsense.
Yeah.
Blow that. Does what I love pay my bills? Otherwise, it's going to become something I hate very soon.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with what you love being a vocation, and then you do what you need to do to pay your bills.
Yeah.
It's that simple.
Yeah. I think it's very important to bring that out because it's beginning to gain ground a lot nowadays. I don't like what I'm doing. But you have to. What Dr. Olayemi is trying to tell us is that you have to, even if you want to do what you love, you better make sure that while you're trying to figure yourself out, your bills are paid. You put yourself in a place where you can meet your financial obligations. Then at some point, if your DJing or your artistry starts to pay your bills, then you can leave, what you're doing, without causing any undue disequilibrium. I think that's very, very important to know. Because people go to work and they're like depressed. They don't really want to go to work. They want to retire and go to Cancun, but they can't afford to do that.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
So
then your misery is now very into stupidity.
Yeah. So it is important to have a passion, but you build your way into it. You don't just follow passion blindly.
Yes.
Yeah. So okay, thank you for bringing that out into the open. So in the whole context of things, I think one of the main things I'm trying to get at when I interview people is, do you think the formal educational system is a failure?
Well, it depends on what you're doing with the formal education in the formal educational system, right?
Yeah.
In my opinion, some things have some courses, I hate to say, have a very low ceiling of achievement. I'm not going to mention names, not to offend anyone, because I'm afraid, so I just don't think it's worth it. You have to ask yourself, how much am I paying the school for this, and how much do I start to make when I start working? Right? If the difference between what you'll ever make and what you're going to be owing the school is just inordinate, then maybe you shouldn't be doing that course at all, right? You know, again, you can be educated formally and still be a fool. I hate to say that, but it's simply true. People tend to look down on artisans, on plumbers, carpenters, you know, electricians. These guys make well over $100,000, at least in the U.S., as far as I know, over $100,000 in the U.S., and they don't owe any money. And you are a college graduate with a graduate degree in basket weaving and God knows what, and I don't know what you're planning to do. You're owing hundreds of thousands of dollars and you're miserable. But you can brag and say, oh, I'm educated, I went to so and so college. Well, who gives a rat's ass? You can't pay your bills.
Yeah.
Right? So it's funny. I mean, ever since I got here, it's what I tell my kids as well, that, okay, if you're struggling academically, you really don't have to have a proper formal education, right? Just make sure you know the basics, you can read, you can write, and then go learn a trade.
Yeah.
People make a lot of money doing trade work. That's what people don't seem to understand. They make a lot of money doing trades, carpentry, plumbing, metalwork, welding. You know, at the end of the day, you're getting your bills paid.
Yeah, but you know, it's not, economically speaking, it's not the same everywhere. I wouldn't say it's like that in other countries, but in the US, it's, you make a lot of money, you know, if you're an artisan.
Yes.
So okay, so what you have brought out, I think, is really important to notice that, you know, you have to have a good sense of what am I getting into before you start studying.
Yeah.
So yeah, some of us went to school, like, you know, there's people who wanted to study medicine but couldn't make the cut and ended up studying, say, English education, you know. And of course, you know, some people, the point I'm trying to get at is that some people may have found themselves studying non-marketable things for other reasons. And, you know, I think what you're trying to bring out here is that no matter where you find yourself, you should make an extra effort to position yourself in a way that whatever it is that you're investing your time into is going to pay you off in the future.
Yes.
And I'll give you an example. I have a cousin. I admire him very greatly. He's a very quiet guy. He would never want to blow his trumpet or anything like that. But he's still in Nigeria now. What I remember about him was that he wanted to study medicine, and he didn't quite, you know, because it's quite competitive getting into medicine, and he couldn't make the cut. So he ended up studying something like, you know, I think it was anatomy, something like that.
Okay.
You know, it's one of the basic medical sciences. What he did was initially he let them talk him into, you know what, you know, we can still work with this. Maybe you go and do a master's, and you know. But by the time he was done with the anatomy program, he said, you know what, I'm going to go back to medical school, you know. And he actually did that. He took his BSc, and that got him a year 2 education, admission, and he went back and finished medical school, you know. So that's an example of someone who, you know, life dealt some cards that were not fair, but he still made sure that, you know, regardless, he realigned himself with what works. Now, in the US, medicine is very well compensated, you know, but it's not the case in, say, in Africa. Not that you can't get a good job, but it's kind of really hard to find a good one.
True. That's why we all left.
Yeah, so people, you know, I think that's one reason why people are disgruntled with the system. And I think what we need to point out now is that no matter where you find yourself, you have to find a way to squeeze value or create value out of your knowledge, you know?
Yeah.
It was not easy for Dr. Olayemi to come to this country and essentially start again all over, you know. But it came at great cost, and he somehow managed to do it. And that's why we're interviewing him. He has made it sound like it's easier than it is, but I know that's not true, because I've met and interacted with many doctors. In fact, you told me that your dad went to Moscow. I know one doctor who went to medical school in Moscow. He came to US, and he has not been able to, you know, rise to that level again, because, you know, I don't know what it is, you know, and I'm hoping that hearing you talk, he might get encouraged to do it again, you know. But he basically has given up on even going down that road, you know. So you have people at two extremes, you know, where people will come into this country, and in spite of the obstacles and hardships, they'll make sure they'll get back in line, even though, you know, there's been a setback. You have to study and get accepted in the society, and some people just never are able to cross that bridge. So there's people who fight to the death to make sure that they get back on track, and then there's others at the extreme who like, it's never going to happen, let me just change direction, and they never are able to continue where they left off. So do you think that, you know, we have a part to play in where we find ourselves on both ends of that spectrum?
Yes, I mean, you know what I told you, that, you know, I always do what is within my power, and everything else outside of that I have no control over. I try not to worry about it, right? With regards to some people not being able to follow their dreams, I have a friend, one of my very good friends from med school, probably one of the brightest guys I've ever met, who would have been just excellent in this society as a medical doctor. Came here, did a master's in public health, Harvard, and somehow I don't think he ever did the exams, but he wanted to practice as a doctor, and somehow found himself in research, right? He is an exec at Sanofi Pasteur today.
That's a pretty big deal.
Yeah, it is a monstrous deal. He's probably better off than me and a lot of my colleagues in terms of what he brings home or what he takes home, right? Yeah. So but that was something that I realized that I'm not going to be able to go down this path. I'm just going to switch path. But it was also a path that he probably found himself working and decided, well, I've tried to go back to practicing medicine. This seems like the path to go forward. And he's doing that and enjoying it, right? Because one day he was talking to me about wanting to practice medicine. I said, what are you looking for? You know, what really are you looking for? I'll gladly switch places with you. If that's what you want, I'll gladly switch places with you. You know, so sometimes, you know, you're right. Sometimes it's not always all in our hands. That's true. Listen, if you work hard, if you try to apply yourself the best way you can and don't lie to yourself, do everything you know to do, chances are really, really great that you will succeed. But if you don't apply yourself or try or work hard or do the basics that you need to do, the chances of your failure are really, 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 really high, if not almost certain.
Okay.
Right?
That's interesting. Okay, so I think one other thing that popped up while we were talking that I think we should explore again is, you mentioned very early in this interview that your outlook or philosophy of life is Judeo-Christian. Do you think that it has had any, you know, impact on how you have lived your life and where you have reached that philosophy?
Yes. Yes, I do. I do. Despite my shortcomings, yes. And there are a lot of them, God knows. There's still basic things that you look at through the filter of what the Word of God says. No matter how bad it is, it's still the veil that you look at the world through. And there's still basic requirements, right? No matter what. That also encourages you to work. Scripture says that you have to work to feed yourself. There's no such thing as a free lunch, right? Says work to help yourselves, and then if you have extra, you help others. That's there. It never encourages laziness. It doesn't, right? And also tells you that the world will be hard. According to Scripture, it's part of the fall, right? That the world's going to be hard for everybody. It's going to be hard for you as an individual, for the people who live there. So, according to scripture, we live in a fallen world. The world is going south. It's a dying planet, according to scripture. And we're dying humans. And sin is an overarching enemy that pervades everything. So those are difficulties in there. And somehow God manages to bless us through that. So what you do is you do your part, right? Because sometimes, like I said earlier, you can do your part and things don't work out well, but you still have to do your part so that you can exculpate yourself from the end, right? If it doesn't work out the way you thought, but you did your part, hey, I did my part. Okay. I did all I knew to do.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. Do you do anything besides work?
Well, yes, I do. I still like to watch movies. That's a malady, man. I can't help it.
Movies.
I love
soccer. You got time for all of that? And soccer? Okay.
Yeah, I do. I play soccer still. I play soccer whenever I can. Mostly Friday evenings, Saturday mornings, anytime during the week. I'd go play, and then I do martial arts as well. I actually picked that up later when I got here.
Yeah.
So I've been doing that since 2013. No, 2013, yes.
Now, what kind of martial arts do you do?
It's karate based. It's called Mong Sudom Thai.
That's a mouthful.
And I am it is. It is just basically karate fighting form, and I am a 4th degree black.
Nice. How long did it take you to get that?
I've been doing it for what's 7 years? So, well, 8 years now.
8 years.
8 years plus to be 4th degree, right? Yeah.
That's not too bad, you know. I bet
not too bad.
If you were in rural China or Japan, it would have taken you longer.
I'm sure. I probably be seen as a white belt at my level.
yeah, they're much meaner in those places.
Oh yes, but you know, at the end of the day, it gives you a confidence of being able to defend yourself if you need to. Luckily, most people you meet in the world are not skilled fighters.
Yeah,
you know, and most skilled fighters won't go looking for trouble.
Yeah, because they know the damage they can do. Yeah,
the damage they can do, right?
Right.
And most of the time you probably run into a bully, you know.
Yeah.
So what else? Yeah.
So you watch a lot of movies, you play soccer, and then you also do martial arts. Anything else?
I still read. I still try to read. It's slower now than it used to be. I used to be a voracious reader and just anything or any subject. It's funny. I was telling. I don't know if I was telling you or my girlfriend that when I was in public health school, I used to read a book every 2 weeks or so thereabout. I was fully in school because my cousin I lived in his house, had a massive library, so I could just pick up a book and just start reading up. My mom was a big time reader too, so I'd just pick up a book from his library and read, or I'd buy something on Amazon. Unfortunately, the more money I've had, the lazier I've become. So I still have the habits of buying books. I just don't read them
as much. Well, we have to work on that, Dr. Olayemi. We have to work.
I know. I don't read them as much, you know. So I find myself reading. If I read 4 books a year, I've done well. It's just an absolute tragedy now. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know how to change that. I don't know. I think most of my book reading has segued into YouTube. Go on.
Yeah. So, well, I think, we're not going to talk about actual compensation figures, but would you say that the effort that you've put in is paying off now as far as what you can afford in your lifestyle?
Yes.
It was worth it? Yeah. Okay, good.
Yes, it is. And then the way the system is built here at Mercy, I don't know about anywhere else. It's what you call an RVU system. Basically is what you will say, what you kill, you eat.
Mm-hmm.
Right,
which
is fair, right? So you get compensated to the amount of work that you produce That's basically it.
Yeah. So whatever you produce, you get it. That's
yes, and I think that's fair. So it's not a flat fee for everybody, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, it encourages you to be more productive if you want
to be more productive.
More
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's the best way to do it. Yeah.
Which is fair, and I think I've benefited from that kind of structure.
Okay, thank you very much, sir, for your time. I think just to wrap this up, you have been through many obstacles, and you have had many reasons to fail, but you have focused until you got to the end game of where you are. And even being a doctor here doesn't mean once you're in. You still have to like recertify every now and then, right?
Yes. So I have board exams next year.
It's not like it finishes there. You still have to keep upping your game and staying relevant. So, but your past has proven that it's not going to be a problem for you to keep up with it. But for the rest of us who are not feeling like the kind of reward that you might be feeling, what we're essentially trying to learn here is that we might need to change some of the things we are doing to get to get the sort of compensation that we desire. And some of that, if you like, you can go to medical school like Dr. Olayemi. It's never too late in the US. They will take you. They don't have enough. But that's one extreme. The other extreme is that you can take the time to educate yourself about what society attaches great value to, and then align yourself with that. So
basically what you're saying is provide a service.
Yeah, you give them something to compensate you or the level you desire for,
Yeah.
And that part is your responsibility. I remember the first time it really dawned on me was not in sessions like this. It was where I work. I happen to be like, not my favorite part of things, like an HR type of person, in that role. It's a very general role. So I get to see everybody's paycheck. The first time it really dawned on me that, this thing is not a joke. When I started basically signing checks, I don't mean literally, but, approving checks for someone who has a master's degree, same as I have, for 3 times as much as I earn. He has a master's degree, but he's getting 3 times as much money as I earn. That's was the first time it really dawned on me that, oh, there's a problem here. There's a problem here. You really have to pick, what you study if you want to maximize the compensation you get. It's not just about getting an education. So I think that's very important to know. And we also need to warn you as a group, as two people, that when you decide to make that change, it's not going to happen in 5 minutes, especially when you're making a big career type change. You have to be patient and you have to focus until you get to the end game. And as he said earlier in the interview, you also have to be flexible.
Yeah.
If you need to change approach as you go on your journey, be ready for it. So I don't know if you have any other advice for us, Dr. Olayemi, those of us who are trying to, get it right, besides what I have just rehashed,
No, I think you put it well. I don't think I have anything else to add, to be honest. I think introspection also helps you a lot. Looking inward, looking at yourself, asking yourself why you're doing what you're doing, also helps to kind of like sharpen your view, and tell yourself when something isn't working, I need to cut it off, and cut it off like now. And move somewhere else. Yeah. When it comes to things like that, sentiments are not your friend. Yeah.
And we shouldn't forget, don't leave what you're doing until you have replaced that income with something. Don't.
On a steady basis. Yeah.
Don't be sentimental.
That's how I think. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Dr. Olayemi, thank you very much for your time and presence on our show. You've been very helpful to us, and we hope that your story will inspire others to put in their best and also take responsibility for engineering the changes they want to see in their lives.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Nice evening.
Have a good day.
Bye.
Bye.